Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Of course, it dropped on Thursday. The new one will come out on Monday with Jeff Mosher and this man, Adam Caplan. We got training camp questions as we are inside a month. Eagles getting ready for the 2022 season. You know, ESPN.com was ranking the rosters, 53 men. Of course, they don't have that yet, but Eagles were the top 10, their entire roster. So high expectations, Adam, and a lot of questions to meet those expectations. Do you look at the Eagles as a top 10 roster in the league?
Well, I've been saying it on our show, on our podcast, particularly in recent weeks, that the Eagles have a good roster. It's significantly improved on both sides of the football. They have a legitimate top pass target, which we'll talk about in A.J. Brown in just a couple minutes here. They've got the NFL's best offensive line, no question about it. Their starting unit on both sides of the football is pretty good. Now, do they have issues at safety? Sure, there's no question about it. Are there issues at quarterback? Is the quarterback good enough yet? It's a question. It's an issue. No doubt about it. And they have your typical questions. Can Miles Sanders stay healthy and so forth? And depth at certain positions is questionable. But overall, this is a much improved roster. Now we'll have to see what it looks like in training camp. And we'll be there on my training camp tour stop where I see about 22 teams. Eagles will certainly be one of them.
Well, we've turned the calendar to July, which means we're in training camp month. They start this month. Let's get some questions to Adam Caplan here. So go to the offensive side of the ball. And I guess one thing a lot of people want to see, A.J. Brown is here, but will the offense change this season with him? And a lot of the other guys are back. I mean, you got the same offensive line, same running back, same tight end. The other receivers, really the only guy that's different is A.J. Brown. You do have Zach Pascal in here. So will the offense change this season just by adding Brown?
The offense of scheme will not change. The philosophy is going to change. They're going to throw the ball a lot more. I mean, there's no doubt. And I don't know if it's going to be 34.5 times per game for the first 6 games last season. Jalen Hurts certainly couldn't handle that. But I do believe, based on what we've heard, we put on our podcast or show about 3 weeks ago that what we were hearing on Hurts is that he made a big jump in terms of his timing and the way he's throwing the football to his pass targets. He seemed to be in sync with them better. But it's only 7-on-7, so you don't want to go overboard. You're going to be anxious to see what he looks like in training camp. But they're going to be passing the ball more, Mike. This is no longer going to be a run-first offense with that belief. Hurts will certainly be part of the run game, but this is not a team that's going to lead the NFL in rushing anymore. If that happens, there are going to be significant changes in 2023, and it won't be pleasant.
That's interesting. You know, obviously they still have that good offensive line. So do you think they'll still be able to run the ball well, though?
Oh, yeah, sure. They'll definitely run it, but
just not as much.
Right. There's just no – I would say somewhere in the early – the attempts will not be in the 20s anymore. Now, obviously, if they're going to be dominating every game, even when the Eagles were dominating in 2017, Wentz, it wasn't like they were hiding Wentz. Wentz was still a very aggressive thrower. They were going to throw the football. They were not going to be a running team. So – you're going to see a transfer of the belief that they got to evaluate the quarterback. They got to play they want to play. With Shane Steichen, by the way, calling plays as he confirmed before the end of the OTAs. And they're going to be more aggressive throwing it. You don't spend $25 million a year and give up a first and third round pick to hide the football. That's not going to work. And you're going to see them pretty aggressive. And you know what? Their pass target group is much deeper than it was last year as well.
Adam Caplan, number 2. Got a lot of options here. Let's roll them out. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Goddard, maybe one of the running backs. Who leads this team in receptions?
Obviously, A.J. Brown should, Mike, but here's the way I see it. It depends on the matchups that week. That's 18 weeks to 17 games, over the 17 games, Brown will be their pass target most weeks. It won't be every week. Sometimes if the matchups dictate, Devonta Smith good. Dallas Goedert certainly showed that in back-to-back games with the Jets in Washington last year, where he had two of the best games of his career, with 2 different quarterbacks, by the way, one with Minshew at the Jets, and then when they played Washington, he dominated Washington, had problems at safety, and the Eagles took advantage of it. So it'll depend on the matchup, but most weeks it'll be Brown. But the nice thing, Mike, is where last year it had to be Devontae Smith or pretty much no one else. And every once in a while, then you'll have the big plays to Quez Watkins. So they feel really good about their pass target group. Zach Pascal will help them inside the red zone, in particular on third down when they go 11 or 10 personnel. They may do some 4 receiver sets this year, but they'll mainly be 3 receivers. This group, Mike, overall is pretty good. And when you have this offensive line, you're going to throw the football. You'll be successful when you run it, but you feel like they can protect it against any defense.
That should be definitely something to keep an eye on. Another offensive question is, Gainwell. He's a guy that they drafted last year. I think we thought, there was more that he could give. I'm not saying that he didn't give enough himself. I just don't know that they called on him enough. So will his role increase? Will they call on Kenny Gainwell more?
Yeah, Mike, I would expect that Gainwell's role will increase in the passing game, splitting him out wide. Maybe put him in a slot a little bit on slot screens. Let him run vertically from the slot every once in a while, because this is what he did. By the way, he did a little of the X position at Memphis, and they didn't really do that with him. I understand it was Sirianni's first year, and then he handed the play calling off to Steichen midway. But I would expect him to expand his role this season. He's a guy that we reported last year, right after the draft, that the big reason why he was drafted, and it was a 5th-round pick, it wasn't like it was a high pick, was that the staff really pushed for him, we were told, and really liked him. In fact, they had, I'm not saying they didn't have a 5th-round grade, but it might have been a little bit lower than where they picked, but I don't know what the draft board looked like, but we were told that Gainwell was a guy they decided to just take where he was and not wait for him, because they really liked him and thought he'd be effective with this offense. So to summarize, Mike, I expect his role to grow in this offense, no question about it.
I like that. Football at 4, Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com, the Inside the Birds podcast, which will be all over Eagles training camp when it begins July 26th and even before. What about Dallas Goedert? No Zach Ertz, so what's his role now?
Yeah, his role, and here's another one. So, the Eagles' plan was prior to training camp, it was during the draft in 21, to trade Ertz. But their offers were so bad, I'm told, that they were like, we'll just wait. And then what happened was they stopped negotiating. It was kind of the Eagles' decision to stop negotiating with Goddard because they felt they could not move Ertz before the season started. They once training camp started, they felt like, this is not going to work. We're not going to be able to move Ertz. We'll just wait to the trade deadline, and that's exactly what they did. And then they moved him. Then within 2 weeks, they extended Goddard's contract. They just think he's so gifted. I know that their goal was, and we saw some of this, but in particular those 2 games which I talked about earlier against Washington and the Jets, to expand his role. But now they're going to do it, Mike. Now they're actually going to be more consistent with it. Now that they have Jack Stoll as the number 2 tight end, Grant Calcaterra will also help give Goddard a role if he makes a team as a pass catcher. Richard Rodgers is there. I think Whiteside as a blocker. They just feel like not only is Goddard a 3-down tight end, they just think he's a guy. As one Eagles source said to me, who are you going to cover when we got Smith, Brown, Watkins, and Goddard on the field? You can't cover everybody, Mike. So Goddard's role is going to grow. And remember now, he averaged just under 15 yards per catch last season, which is significant for a tight end.
Let's look on the other side of the ball. Defense, I think we all want to know the answer to this one, so I'm looking forward to your answer is, will there be a scheme change? What will this defense look like? That's got to be one of the biggest intrigues at camp. Yeah,
we hinted at this before free agency started. We were told that that there are going to be some changes. We didn't know how significant they would be. We knew they're going to play more 3-4. Based on what we saw in their OTAs and the draft, they clearly are going to do that. And we're not saying they're going to be a total 3-4. No, they're definitely not. They're going to be multiple is what we're told. So that means 4-3, 3-4, maybe the 5-2, which is their dominant front. And that's it. That's good. See, when you do that, you show you're giving the offensive line problems, because if you're multiple and the defense and the offense doesn't know what you're going to do week to week, that's great. That's what makes the Giants D coordinator, Don Wink Martindale, so great, because they morph into something every week. They're the most aggressive defense with the Giants. We'll probably talk about them prior to training camp. But they do so much with scheme. That's the hope, that the front seven morphs into something different most weeks. But the issue is on the back end. Are they going to play more zone? Are they going to play more man? It just depends. But now that you got James Bradbury in there, you certainly can do more things.
Yeah, and, one of the things that you can do differently is because of the linebackers, I think, are an upgrade. I don't know who the starting guys are, though, but regardless of who they are, they'll be an upgrade, right? And who are those guys in your mind going to be? I mean, do you think it'll be two guys that they use primarily? Is it going to be a rotation of guys? How's this thing going to look?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So when you play a 3-4, you have two stand-up outside linebackers. That's exactly what a 3-4 looks like. Those 3-4 outside linebackers most likely will be Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick. When they go to a 43 front, Reddick will be the strong side linebacker, most likely. If they go to a 5-2 front, they could change. They'll have to have an overhang. Like last year, Avery was that overhang linebacker on the strong side. They could do some of that with Reddick if they want. It just depends on how they want to do it. Obviously, if you're a 43 front, Josh Sweat would be one of the DNs. Then the question is, when they go to a sub-package, what's it going to look like? If they go to a two-linebacker alignment, which all teams do, in nickel, in the end, I'm not saying this is going to happen in August, but whether it's September, the first game, the third game, the guys are going to play majority of the snaps when they play 34 inside will be White and Dean. When they go to the 34 package most of the time during the season, again, you're going to see Sweat and Reddick, and Barnett will certainly rotate with them if they go to a 4-3 front. And also, Brandon Graham-Holton last year of his deal will be one of the rotating outside linebackers when they stand up, just like he did under Billy Davis. It took him a little bit of a while to get used to that scheme. So they're going to have a four-man rotation at outside linebacker when they go to the 34, which is Reddick, Graham, Sweat, and Barnett. And the great thing is, Mike, they have so many ways they could use their front. They have so much depth now. And with Jordan Davis being in there, Mike, as a nose tackle, an athletic nose tackle, who apparently looked really good in what they asked him to do. They didn't do a lot in OTAs because you can't really hit, but you could see the length and the athleticism. So this front, Mike, could be terrific. It's really the secondary that you've got major questions. You take a look at that linebacking core, they're certainly more athletic. I think you can probably do so much more with them than you could in the past, right? I mean, that was one of the problems is you had guys that were kind of limited in what they can do. Yeah, and that's the thing. They don't blitz much. Gannon does not believe in blitzing much, which I don't agree with, but we were told that he thinks he could win with scheme, so we'll see. But last year, and I know that they didn't have a lot of talent on defense, we were hearing from other teams that their quarterbacks would say that how easy the Phillies' defense was to decipher. What they got on tape was pretty much what they got on game day, and it was easy. That's why you didn't get the turnovers, you didn't get the pressure numbers that you were looking for. And Gannon's going to have to change it up. There are no more excuses, Mike, with Gannon. I mean, he's been given a lot of talent on defense. Barnett's back. We know we're surprised by that, but we were surprised. He's back. Brandon Graham, we're told, look really good in OTs. He looked healthy. Kaiser White's in there when they want to go to a 34 front. He'll be one of the inside linebackers. He also could play on the outside in a 43. Son Reddick, big time pass rusher. You've got now Jaquaski Tart. By the way, he has not signed his contract. We were told he was supposed to get the physical this week, so maybe it'll be next week. But again, we've heard nothing other than he's going to be an Eagle. And it's still on the Eagles' website for people who are questioning whether it's going to happen. He just hasn't signed it. We are told that he had a travel issue last week, so he'll sign it. It's just a matter of time. And then, look, Bradbury gives you the ability to play more man or zone, whatever you want to do. He's much better in zone, though. And then Maddox is your slot. I mean, they've got a lot more talent on defense. I'm just interested to see, Mike, when we get to training camp, is what we're going to see what they're going to do in the regular season, because Gannon did not wind up doing a lot of, probably less than half of what he wanted to do because of lack of talent that he was given.
You mentioned Jordan Davis and how he can kind of change what they do defensively, but does he make as big of an impact this year, or do you think that the bigger impact will come in year two?
Year two, yeah, that's a good one, because Hargrave and Cox in a 43 front or 5-2 front are your starting defensive tackles. Now, there'll be some packages where they bring Jordan Davis in and they bring Hargrave, however they want to do, and they also have Milt Williams as their fourth D tackle. It'll be tough to keep five. I wouldn't rule it out. Marlon Tuipulotu, it would be certainly the fifth guy that they're thinking about as we get closer to training camp, which is under 4 weeks now till the Eagles report on the 26th. But when you look at it, they've got such good depth on the interior of that defensive line that they're in pretty good shape there. And they don't have to play Davis a ton of snaps. The other thing with him, Mike, is now I know he's lost some weight, but what kind of shape does he come in here to training camp? Because that certainly is a key.
Definitely looking forward to him. Secondary, you mentioned Bradbury, and they brought him in. Tart's on his way. But you got Epps, you got Harris, and Slay is back. So do we anticipate this secondary is better in year 2 under John Gannon, or was last year's crew more talented with Steve Nelson and Ronnie McLeod?
You bring in James Bradbury. I mean, please, Mike, they finally have a legitimate number 2 corner, but here's the problem. They don't have a legitimate 3rd, 4th, or 5th outside corner. Their hope is Jimmy Moreland, who they claimed off waivers from the Texans, who's now been on 3 teams in 2 years. They know him because he played in the division for Washington. The hope is that he wins or pushes Zach McPherson to be that 3rd outside corner. That's certainly now we're told McPherson's clearly the 3 now, 3rd outside corner, but maybe Moreland pushes him. Their hope is that Josh Jobe and Mario Goodrich, who they gave some good money to, will push for roster spots, but it's not a proven group. You know, Tay Gowan's there, the guy that they like, who they like coming out of Wake Forest, who they got in the Earths trade. It's just they don't have a lot of experience. That's a very important position. A, for depth if somebody gets hurt, and if you go to your dime package, you want to have that. You want to have that other outside corner. That to me, as you get closer, as you get deeper into the season, becomes an issue. I don't know how they got away with it last year. But to me, they're asking for trouble not having experience on the outside.
Yeah, and as you kind of hinted at, like if there was an injury, that's where we would. And luckily, they made it through the season last year without having that injury, so you never got a chance to see a lot of the other guys.
Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. Now you're going to get a much better look in training camp at all the younger guys, and this group. Josiah Scott had mentioned, Kerry Vincent, Mac McCain. Joe Banner, the former Eagles president, came on our show last year, and what he had said that, because people would complain about the cornerback group after Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown left, he said a lot of the times they just took sort of flyers, 5th, 6th, and 7th round. I think he kind of called it dart throws. Well, this is what these guys look like. They're all 4th and 5th corners. Could someone emerge to challenge? We'll have to see.
All right, Adam Caplan, InsideTheBirds.com. The Inside the Birds podcast, Monday morning at 6 a.m. when you're making your – actually, you doing a 4th of July, 6 a.m.? What's the schedule?
Yeah, we our show for Monday, Mike, will be great. We have a Facebook community group, and we asked for questions. We got at least a dozen of them, and we answered 10 of them, and you'll hear them on Monday. A diverse series of questions on both sides of the football. Coaching, philosophy, it's great. And look, I encourage you, we've got on that board, we've got over 2,000 people. We put this up over a year and a half ago, that board. I encourage you to go there. Just sign up. We'll approve you. And you can ask questions. And there's some smart people in there. We enjoy the interaction.
Always fun to get the interaction and engagement from Eagles fans where training camp will begin. Now, let me ask you, you're a training camp tour guy. You like to go to them all. Do you miss the Lehigh days, or is the NovaCare complex A-OK for you?
Other than the drive, which could be an hour and a half with traffic, once you get off of the turnpike, there's always construction. It's kind of, you have to drive over the mountain. I miss it. There's just something about being away. That's why one of the many reasons I love traveling in the summer, where I travel the West Coast, East Coast, Central Plains, and so forth. I love driving. I'm one of these weird people, Mike. I don't mind a six-hour drive. It doesn't bother me. I look forward to doing it, and I like the joint practices. I'm going to see a bunch of them this summer. I look forward to it.
Now, are you a Jersey Shore vacationer? Do you make it down the shore at all?
I was as a kid. Our family had a house in LBI for probably a couple decades. Now what I do is I go to the Outer Banks instead. My wife and I go. You love the OBX. OBX is the best beach, I think, on the stateside.
I was in Avon last summer.
Nice.
I had a fantastic time. Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast, Monday morning on the 4th of July. As you're on the beach, take a listen to Adam and Jeff go through the Eagles' questions for the offseason. All right, Adam, happy 4th, bud.
You too, thank you.
All right, there's Adam Caplan here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Always good information. He's well plugged in, well connected as we take a look at the Eagles' offseason questions there.